when you heard the title, nobody's looking for help. Nobody's intentionally looking for help. You're going, no, that's not right. I look for help. And you can prove it here and there. But if you really had to look for help, today we're going to talk about why is it that 90, according to stats, 90 to about 96% of people do not actually want help in any form. Intrinsically, so it's a first response. Being a neuroscientist, I look at the world a little differently because I'm paying attention to the neuroplasticity. So the neuroscience side of it is your nervous systems. So you've got parasympathetic nervous system. You've got your anatomic nervous system, which is the nervous system that is automatic and responses with reality. And then there is the nervous system, your central nervous system that connects, and then you've got another nervous system that connects from the central nervous system to every other organ in your body. So your central nervous system goes down the spine, and then you have a subsidiary of that goes into the fingertips and wherever. So wherever there's an anatomy, a biology, there a nervous system is going to go into it because it's always connected and it's always working in tandem with. So we are amazingly intelligent and we are amazingly interconnected at the same time. Our biology oozes with intelligence, so that's why our body can tell us where we are sick and when we are sick. That's why our emotions can tell us how come we are sick. That's why the body energies, and there are 7 neuroscience energies: food state energy, there is electro energy, there's electromagnetic energy, there's atomic energy, careful for that one. There is muscle energy, there's food state energy, there's motor energy. Now, all of these energies work together in tandem and send out signals into the kinesthetics of our body. It's quite simple. When you're stressed, where do you feel it first? So for me, the moment I'm stressed, the main area that I'll pay attention to is my mouth dries up. I get pressure here in just above the jawbone, and then it goes into the temple, and then it goes into in between the 2 shoulder blades, not on the shoulder blades. It's in between the 2 shoulder blades. And then as the scapula go down, the bone called your shoulders, when it goes down there, right there in the flesh part where that massage therapist goes and puts the elbow in and says, yeah, I found something, and then you climb up the wall. But what is it that makes people say in their mind, I don't need help? Very seldom will people put up their hand and go, hey, I need help. I really do need help. Interesting, it seems that in our neuroplasticity, now neuroplasticity is the DOS program of our consciousness, and in there is amazing things like intuition. Animals don't have it. Animals only have survival. They don't wake up with intention. That's the other one. So intuition, then there's intention, then there's intelligence, then there's interconnectedness, then there is the ability to be creative inventive. Then there is the capacity to be predictive. So when I fell off a roof in 2016 at the speed of 28 kilometers an hour, I fell 3.8 meters. I reached the ground with a thump at the speed of round about 24 kilometers an hour, and I created 3,600 and whatever joules. That is energy that went out into the universe. And they say when energy happens in Tokyo, a tidal wave happens somewhere in the northern parts of Africa on the shores. Everything is interconnected. Comes to mind that the brain, the consciousness of the brain, the DOS program itself, your neuroplasticity, which is the part that does the creation of a thought, that does the creation of a question, that does the creation of a feeling and energy. When you heard the title, nobody's looking for help. Nobody's intentionally looking for help. You're going, no, that's not right. I look for help. And you can prove it here and there. But if you really had to look for help, that would change your life. That would change the way that, change your behavior, change the way that you think, change the way that you be and become, change the way that you respond to, change the way that you interact with. All of those things are linked within your neuroplasticity. The only time our personality or ego engages is when the consequences of my thinking and my feeling and my energies and my emotions create a decision, and that decision slams into a consequence. And you'll always have consequence because energy output means that there's going to be energy coming back. So if I have negativity, you better believe it, I'm going to get negativity coming back. By and large, our neuroplasticity does not want us to change. So the neuroplasticity or the DOS program of our consciousness and our mind, so our brain does no thinking, has no emotions, doesn't come up with solutions. The brain is a fatty tissue. It's actually a wetware, not hardware. It's not like a computer. So it is wetware. It contains gray fat and white fat. It's material. It's made up of fluid, around about 70% fluid, of which water is part of it. But the fluid that's in the brain is not water flowing, as many people will share because they've read it somewhere in a book. But in our neurology, we don't have that way. So inside our neuroplasticity is already a governing center, and it's built within our parasympathetic nervous system. So there's a space called the stress circle. If you can imagine, a circle is divided into half. So we have N stress, EN stress, which is good stress. It's manageable. The stress is relative. It's relative to my situation. The stress is, I don't go into overwhelm in any way whatsoever. I'm aware, I'm consciously aware of it. And I realize that I have the ability to go into what is known as not only self-reflection, but I can go into self-regulation is the neuroscience terminology. I can self-regulate. So that's where growth happens in my neuroplasticity. I'm not made and then left. And people say you can never change your brain. No. You can literally rewire everything in your brain. And if you can rewire it, it can impact the way that you live, the way that you respond differently. Now, because people say, I don't need help, it's because the brain is already saying that. And so the neuroplasticity in the stress mode of where it is now not in stress, which is helpful stress, you now have distress, which is the other side of the circle. And that is where my parasympathetic nervous system switches on, my amygdala switches on, or amygdala switches on, and that's where I go into fight, flight, fright, flee, freeze, or fellowship. So we go into the 6 F's in terms of response to an environmental reality, going, oh my goodness, I'm about to talk to an audience. I'm about to do my first presentation. I'm about to write an exam. So the amygdala switches on and pumps in cortisol as a neurotransmitter and a hormone. It pumps noradrenaline and norepinephrine into my nervous system and into my blood system. And that is called inhibitory, and it inhibits me. It puts me in stress mode, and I'm no longer in open-minded mode. I go whoosh, and my brain goes, now I need you to protect, and I'm going to protect you at all costs. That's the neuroplasticity that's holding you back. It's driven by something else that's inside of us. So it's driven inside of us by our ego. Now, ego is comprised of self-importance. And there are 6 self-identities, we can talk about that at a later stage, that create like a shell around my ego. So my ego is my self-importance. That's why people will hoot. I was on my way to a meeting today to help people and guide people and coach people. And suddenly LDV stops in front of me exactly at a traffic light intersection, and the traffic light is green. I'm now stuck behind this person who's put on the emergency light. Passenger gets out, he goes into the shop, and guess what? He decides while the light is green, this person must go shopping, and I'll hold up the rest of traffic behind me. Interestingly enough, the cars behind me all blew hooters. And I asked myself, I'm wondering why I'm not blowing a hooter, because I'm not like going crazy about this. But the reason why they blow the hooter is because of inconvenience, and the inconvenience in my neurology is interpreted, you're messing with my self-importance. And a little hand comes out from the window of the little LDV and he shows, just pass me, just get on with it, get on with your issue and pass me. I'm dealing with an issue here. I don't care if this is impacting 20 cars behind, plus another row of cars over here. And then the cars that are behind me are all putting their indicators and trying to get into this lane. And it's like, oh my goodness, there's a possibility of huge chaos here. Then the cars that pass this LDV go into sign language. And I decided I'm not going to go into sign language. I'm not going to, because it's an ego move, and I'm not going to give my ego an opportunity to take me into negative energy. So they're going to ponder about it. It's going to become a story at work when they get there. It's going to be a story that they're going to share at the dinner table. It's the story they're going to share at the next braai. And they're going to use the same negative energy that the brain stored in that moment, and they're going to use that energy in terms of remembering and recall, and that's how a story becomes an evolving experience and so darn interesting, because the brain is remembering the emotional energy of that moment, and it's sharing that energy through us, through our entire being. I don't want to be helped. And you're going, no, I do want to be helped. But actually, most people don't want to be helped. The reason for that is, one reason is in our neurology, There's the safety mechanism that says, I want to save energy, I want to save time, I want to save myself the trouble of having to actually come up with a creative idea, actually counteract all this energy that's putting on brakes for me. And I've got to counteract that with a cognitive thinking, not emotional energy. You don't counteract emotional energy, which the brain is now generating, or your neuroscience, your neuroplasticity is creating that negative energy of, whoa, the handbrake version is on. I want to protect you at all costs. So I go into flee, fight, fright, freeze, fellowship mode, and faint mode. And I want to really help you because I don't want you now to expend energy. And so it's a self-defense mechanism that is already built into our neurology. And so the biggest enemy is, your neurology. Interesting. Then ego is a collection of all my thinking, all my beliefs, all my feelings, and that's packaged over time. And over time, the brain packages it and says, okay, so you're doing this, so therefore that must be important, this must be important. And in the neurology, the neurons that are firing together through all the synaptic gaps, so you've got 100 billion, 87 to 100 billion, and they've been measured by Harvard and Stanford and Oxford neurology departments, measured to an accuracy rate of around about 94%. So it's very, very accurate. And then, so a neuron is like the hand, and in there it's a cell, and then there is mitochondria, which is tiny little particles that are inside this cell, and mitochondria give oxygen to the life of this cell. It's interesting that they're finding that one of the ways in which they're working with anti-cancer protocols, one of it is let's replace the mitochondria, because these little oxygen generating molecules are sick, and that's what causes the cancer. So they take the sick hypochondria out and they put healthy mitochondria back, and the moment they put healthy mitochondria back into the cell or the neuron, cancer disappears. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that's happening out there. But why don't I want to change? And so now my ego says to me, self-importance. If you put your hand up, it means you're showing weakness. You're showing a sign of, oh my word, I now need help. So therefore, I might be in a position of authority in a business. I might be in a position of authority in a family constellation. I might be in a teenage relationship, constellation of relationships, and there I play a role of influence and impact. So I don't want to look bad. And so I go into self-denial, and ego makes me play false identity. Interestingly enough, the 6 identities that create a shell around the ego, so false identity is one, lost identity is another, projected identity, something that I want to project because I think that's what you want to get from me. So I'll project it for you with pleasure. The actor, the archetype. Now, when all of that happens and that comes together, ego is so cunning that it even produces its own version of what is known as true self. And that's where psychological profiles measure. They measure around all those identities around the ego called personality. So personality is a guessing game. And if you're trying to manage people around you and you're trying to manage them based on a personality type, oh, my wife is very interpersonal related, I am more introvert, she's more extrovert, and it's a guessing game. The reality is this: when you change the context, and the context is who, what, when, where, and how. So when you change the context, the ego and the personality adapt, and it goes, which part of me needs to come onto the stage now? And so it creates an archetype to be able to deal with this new reality that it's facing. To put my hand up and say I need help from someone else is one hell of a brave thing to do. That's where we open up ourselves to go, I need a mentor in my life, I need a coach in my life. And if we are religious, we're possibly going to an institution, and that institution is propagating from the pulpit that we need to be part of a small group, and in the small group, that's where we're going to grow. And the sad part about that is that organized religion has now taken over the role of the family, and they now go, now you now need to belong to the small group, which is an archetype of what the family should actually be about. I don't need help. I really don't need help. But then we'll be in this small group. It could be anything. We're in an exco group. We're in a manco group. And the executive, who's the leader, needs to know that they are going to be beguiled by their exco team, who are going to deliver answers that they think you're looking for, and therefore it is delusion, and therefore it's self-serving, and therefore it's missing the plot, and you get consciousness where a group of people going, we actually believe our own PR. And our PR means, no, we're doing great and fine, irrespective of the fact we're not reaching target. The facts are blaring. The facts are we're not making profit. The facts are our margins are down. Everything is down. And amidst all of that, they spin a believable story of going, everything is going to be fine. We've come out of it before, we'll come out of it again. And there's no cognitive thinking around that whatsoever. To be able to change, we need someone who's going to help us to go think about it cognitively. Come out of your emotional shell. Working with someone who's in a career change, I get them to draw it on a piece of paper. What are you facing right now? Where are you? If you had to put X marks the spot on the piece of paper so that you could feel, I'm in charge of this unfolding in my life. And then draw it in circles and triangles, the options that are available to you. And you draw that on the page and you put X marks the spot. If I stand there, then I can see everything that's happening. And if I stand there, I can go into observer mode, but also into delivery mode, because I know that the one thing that all of these circles in front of me, I need to orchestrate them. And that's not plan, lead, organize, and control. It's about orchestration. So in our neuroscience, in our brain, it only knows how to orchestrate. So it doesn't come up with a new plan that you've got to cognitively think about. So plan, lead, organize, and control is actually a myth model, because your neurology doesn't do that. So your neurology does purposeful, alert planning that is linked to a cognitive, purposeful outcome, linked to meaning. So the word is poem. Proactive, productive, purposeful planning. O stands for orchestration, the orchestra conductor. I'm conducting all these resources and I'm conducting resourcefulness. E stands for execution. Some people I want to execute. So, but execution is about getting things done, and it's me driving in the car from here to Pretoria, and I'm watching the sign boards going, depending on which route I'm going, Benoni and Midrand and Pretoria North, Centurion. Where am I going? It's the orchestration of understanding momentum, pacing, timing, and direction. And that's what help can give you, for you to stand back and go, oh my goodness, I didn't think that I needed all these things. I didn't think that that's what my brain does. And that's exactly what I do as a neuroplastician and neuroscience coach. So I help people to think about their thinking. I help them to go into reflective mode. And the help that I need is to do exactly that. I need to go into reflective mode. Because for the brain to learn anything, for the mind to learn, we've got to set it up. So the first thing I need to set up is it interesting? If it's not interesting, I'm not going to invest energy in it, my neurology says, my neuroplasticity. So if I'm not interested in it, so somehow a teacher will start a subject and go, how do I create interest in this particular part of the lesson? Because I'm about to teach the class, when did the 1826 settlers arrive? And I still don't know when they arrived, because I'm not really interested in when they arrived or how they arrived or what they did what they ate when they arrived. I'm glad they arrived and glad they paid a role, but it doesn't interest me. So I'm not going to show interest to it. But if you tell me that the impact of their coming impacted economy, impacted the future, impacted interpersonal relationships, impacted diversity, now my ears are going, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm into it. Then from there, the second thing that the brain needs to learn is meaning. What will it mean to me? The fact that it's interesting is one thing, but what will it mean to me? How can I use what I know is what my neurology is asking. And deep within my essence is this little space called yearning. And in my yearning, I know what I know, and I also know what I don't know. Now, it comes from, and Maslow's hierarchy of needs is psychological safety, all those needs that are base, and comes up to transcendence. I don't know what I need until I've had someone open up my perspective, until I've had someone stand next to me on a hill and go, wow, look how the shadows are forming on that mountain. Look how the sunlight is dancing on the top of the trees in that forest. Look how the sun's rays are going in onto the cloud. And until someone comes alongside me and helps me with that, I go generalized mode. And that's why I need help, but that's why I don't need help, because the neurology doesn't want to disturb that peace, in inverted commas. It's called a comfort zone, which we'll talk about at a later stage. Then for the brain to learn, I need to be involved, and that needs to be facilitated. Hardly anybody wants to be involved with their life, because that means, oh my goodness, I've got to create an action plan. I've got to become editable, not accountable. I've got to become editable. I've got to take ownership. And then I've got to be actively involved in creation, in paying attention to the experience so that I can create an impact in my future, and my future create an impact in my world. But that cannot happen without the help of someone. And so I'm fooled in delusion by, I don't need help, I'm okay. My experience is going to carry me through, really? My knowledge is going to carry me through, really? My experiential wisdom is going to carry me through. Really? I've got a top-notch team around me, my exco and manco and whoever they are, my board. And research has shown the moment you appoint a board, you stuff up an organization. Because they all go into believability. And if the board's thinking is not orchestrated, if it's not paying attention with intentionality, they're going to default into doing all sorts of things. And that's why the Comrades Marathon, all their directors were challenged because, guys, you are messing up here. You're spending money. People are creating false volunteers, and all of that came out. And so they sent out a message to all of the alumni, and the alumni said, no, we want excellence. So do what you've got to do and address that thing. And so they had to address everything that the directors were doing. Dimension data. 5 or 6 of the directors went into non-productive, non-ethical, non-legal actions, and people had to call them out because they believed, I don't need help, we can do this. And so in delusion, we take chances. In delusion, we begin to mess with the system. And then in delusion, our ego says, you need help here, and you can get that, and you can do this, and you can do that. And therefore, the role and function that you have is to get and grab. And that's also a neurological thing that happens. It switches on. Because it switches on because of past experiences that I had in my childhood that I did not solve and did not pay attention to. And now I feel benevolent towards myself and therefore feel deserving. And therefore I'm going, no, I'm going to internally. So my neurology internally toys and goes, no, you need to be the benefactor of this. And it's going, I demand and I demand. And so my neurology has got I demand built into it. I demand it, I demand it, I demand it. I'm wondering what you're thinking. I'm wondering, what are you feeling about the nobody needs help? Nobody wants help. Nobody wants anybody else in their life to chirp, because that's how they interpret it. But what if someone in my life can sharpen me like a piece of iron? What if someone in my life can come alongside me and help me to become aware, open up my aperture? What if someone in my life is called whatever, mentor? What if someone in my life, friend, colleague, what if someone in my life can come alongside me and help me to unpack so that I can see clearly, to highlight so that I can understand sequence, so that I can pay attention to practical application, and that I can stand back and reflect on it. And none of that will happen without me putting my hand up and going, I need help. And that takes courage, and that takes more than where people are at right now. And you've got to overcome your ego, and you've got to overcome your own neurology that's holding you back, because the brain says the handbrake version is on, you are fine exactly as you are. Are you? So I'm wondering, okay, carry on. Don't bother about changing. Just be yourself into the future for the rest of your life. Until you make the decision, I need help. you'll probably carry on being the same. Until next time, when we can chat again, I'm looking forward to that opportunity.